This is a long shirt or short dress. Notice that there's one more detail attached on top of the main one. It goes right to the bottom. Due to this fold, the detail goes to the side seam. Here's the first fold. Have a look at the dummy. There's one more fold here. When I first looked at the picture, I didn't think that I would face any difficulties making this garment. Once I started working on the pattern, I had a lot of questions. Should I make it of knitted fabric in order to avoid making darts? Where to place the darts if I don't want to make the garment of knitted fabric? It took me quite a lot of time to make a pattern for this garment. I didn't want these parts to be baggy. This is a mock-up. I'm going to show you how to make exactly the same detail. I'm not going to make a full-size shirt. I'll just make one more front detail. It will be more beautiful. The design turned out to be pretty complicated. I tried about 3 or 4 ways of making a pattern for this garment. There are 3 layers of fabric here. Have a look at the picture. It's obvious that these details are pretty strong. What should we pay attention to? Due to the fact that there's a fold here, both the wrong and the right sides of fabric should be even. I'm going to show you the piece of fabric I'll be working with. Have a look here once again. Due to the fact that there's a fold here, the right and the wrong sides of fabric change. The first fold is placed in between the center front and the chest dart. Don't worry, I'll show you what to do. As I've already said, the design is pretty complicated. Anyway, I'm sure that at least some of you will manage to make such shirts. You guys are very talented. Have a look at the table. These are the front and the back patterns. I've made them longer. I can move the back aside because I'm going to work just with the front detail. The design is pretty complicated, so the videos will be long enough even without making the back. What should I start with? I need to draw the first fold. As I've already said, it should be placed in between the center front and the chest dart. I think it should end here. Next, I'm going to draw this line. This is the next line to be drawn. That's it. This is the pattern for the lower layer of the front. It shouldn't be cut. I remind you that there is a chest dart here. This is the detail which I'm talking about. Next, I need to draw the patterns for these details. As I've already said, the design is pretty complicated. You need to be patient and attentive. It would have been much easier to make a blouse if I removed this dart. I decided not to do it, because I don't want the armholes to be baggy. This is why I decided not to get rid of the chest dart. I am going to move part of this opening here, but not all of it. I prefer to sew and wear accurate, high-quality garments. This is why I'm not looking for the easy ways of sewing. Have a look here. There's a straight line here in between the center front and the dart top. You can place these points wherever you want. This is the point which I'm talking about. This is where it's placed in my pattern. I drew the line starting from this point. The first one goes down to the ankle and the second one up. It ends a bit under the waistline. Let's continue working with the pattern. I didn't expect this shirt to turn out to be that complicated. I folded the pattern in half, and next I need to outline the fold with a marker pen. Guys, be very attentive. Watch what I'm doing. This is the line I'm working with now. Next, I need to fold this piece of tracing paper in half and lay the fold right on this line in the original pattern. Please be very attentive. Very nice. I need to pin the pattern. I don't want to make mistakes. We need to be very careful and attentive when making the pattern. It took me a pretty long time to find the best way of making a pattern with this shirt.
Но мы уже к какому-то решению тут пришли и вам показываем.
Next, I need to turn the details this way and cut the extra piece. The front pattern already consists of the two details. I remind you that there are the 3 layers of fabric here in the mock-up.
Вторая деталь, вот она под низ уходит, и вот третья деталь. Слой, не деталь, а слой.
The shoulder seam, the armhole, Don't change anything. Cut just right along the original pattern. Do not forget about the chest dart. I tried removing the chest darts. The armholes are so baggy in this case that I decided that it's just a waste of time. Let's have a look at what we have here. This is the front pattern, the original front detail, and the second one folded in half. I remind you that the second detail is pinned not to the center front. I'll actually sign the center front for you not to make mistakes. I'll also sign the waistline. Here it is. Next, I need to make a notch in the waistline in all the 3 layers. It should be done this way for us not to make mistakes. Have a look at the first bias line, the one which goes down. Here it is. I need to outline it in the second detail. It's not hard to do it. Next, I need to cut the lower part in the second detail. Please be patient and careful. I know that the pattern is pretty complicated. Next, I need to draw the second bias line. Notice that I've cut the 2 layers here. Next, I need to cut just 1 layer. I'll start cutting a bit lower. I don't need this line anymore. You can draw the lines however you want. It's up to you how to change the design. These are the 3 layers of the front detail. The first one, the second one, and the third one. There's a chest dart here. I haven't changed it yet. What should we do next? I need to detach the lower detail and move it aside. I'm not going to change it. It should look in the garment exactly like it did in the basic pattern. The thing is that it should be used for drawing the upper layers on its basis. Have a look here. First, I need to sign the right side in this detail. This is how the first detail looks like now. You can see that it hasn't been changed. There will be a dart in the first layer. Here it is in the mock-up. If you don't make a dart, the shirt won't fit you. I can move the first detail aside. This is the detail I'll be working with now. I remind you that the fold should match this line in the first detail. I'm going to cut this detail, make new openings, close the original ones. When the detail is ready, I'll trace it to a piece of tracing paper to cut a one-piece pattern. Please be very attentive. This is where the dot top is. I need to draw a line down from it. The line should be parallel to the center front. It should also go up to the shoulder seam. Make sure that the line goes right through the bust top. This is the line I've just drawn. Here it is in the mock-up. The lower part of the front should be flared. I'm going to make a couple of openings here. They should go up to the dart. I'm not going to flare the details much. The first one, and one more here. If you don't make the openings, these details won't be flared. Don't open them much, just a bit. This is how the lower part of the front looks like now.
И здесь
Don't
вот
make
так
these openings too wide
немножечко, много не
either.
надо. Вы видите, какие я делаю раскрытия? То есть
By
вот
making the
здесь,
openings,
получается,
we made both the lower part of the front flared
немножко
and the
вниз,
chest
для
dart
того,
a
чтобы,
bit tighter.
слегка, чуть-чуть фолдила и уменьшили раствор выточки. Такое
I
ощущение,
know that it
что у
looks
меня
like this is a
сейчас
full-size front
правая
pattern,
левая, что у
but
меня
actually
с одной
this is
стороны
just the right
одна,
half of the
с другой
front.
стороны другая, но нет. Все это одна половина правая. Вот наше лицо.
This is the right side,
Вот
this is the flare,
вот
and
наша
this is the
выточка.
chest
Теперь
dart.
смотрите, обратно я для
I want to fold the
эксперимента
pattern
вам
once
сейчас
again.
всё сгибаю. Это у
This
нас
is how the flare
нижняя
details look
часть,
like,
это у нас верхняя
the
часть,
second layer
появилась
and the third
немножечко
layer.
тут свобода, а
There's
выточка
still a chest dart
осталась.
here.
Вот это
Let
у
me
нас
explain
нижняя,
everything once
смотрите.
again.
Сейчас объясню.
Have a look at the lower detail.
Нижняя это вот это вот.
Here it is in the picture.
Нижняя, а вот это вот
This is the
верхняя.
upper
Вот она
detail.
нижняя, а вот это верхняя.
They are kind of divided with the fold.
Загибается вот от сгиба. Видите, да? Вот эта выточка
What should we do with the chest dart in the lower detail?
просто остается. Мы её
Nothing.
просто зашьем. Вот
We'll
так
stitch it the
вот.
way we usually
А
do.
вот с этой выточкой
What
хуже.
about the dart in the upper detail?
По нашей линии,
I
которая
remind you
линия,
that
вот
this line
видите,
goes right from the bust top.
проходит через центр груди.
It
Мы
should
вот
be
это
cut.
всё отрезаем.
Next, I need to close the chest dart.
Закрываем. Вот он.
This is where it should be moved.
И вот здесь
Next, I need to make a 12 centimeters wide opening here.
Давайте на 12
It should be done in order for us to be able to make the folds here.
образовалась вторая. Ну, такая
The fold shouldn't be small.
Вот так на 12 сантиметров раздвигаем. Что сейчас?
Next, I need to trace this detail to a piece of tracing paper.
Новую кальку.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be convenient to work with this pattern.
Вам не надо ничего бояться.
Be very
просто
attentive.
внимательно
Watch what I'm doing.
следуй.
I'm going to throw these details away.
У нас очень жарко. Кондиционеры не справляются.
The design turned out to be pretty complicated.
Нет, лучше подальше. Видите,
I'd better draw the line a bit further.
рисую на новой кальке.
I need to trace this pattern to a piece of tracing paper. You guys are so talented. Sometimes the customers of my fashion house create so beautiful garments that I can't even find the right words to describe my fascination. Sometimes I even tell my customers that they should be designers instead of being economists, for example. Make sure that the lines match. Do not forget to mark the waistline.
Далее.
I can throw this pattern away. I also need to outline the fold line and mark it.
Я сейчас ее назову. Линия
Be very
сгиба.
attentive.
Она у нас
This is not the center front. This is the fold line. It should be signed.
линия сгиба.
Guys, be very attentive.
Да.
This is the right side,
Лицо правильно.
and this is the wrong side.
Сейчас она развернется.
I know that the pattern, as well as the design, is pretty complicated.
Самое главное,
You need to be very accurate when drawing a pattern.
линии правильно нанести.
Let's have a look at the third detail. I remind you that it has to be moved for 12 centimeters. It should be done in order for me to be able to make a fold.
10. А вы возьмете сколько
I
хотите.
think that 10 centimeters would be
Самое
enough.
главное понять смысл.
10 centimeters here and
Я
here.
думаю, что мы уже на канале не
You can make the opening as wide as you want. I want you to not only be able to copy what I do, but to understand what I'm doing. This is not the first complicated design I'm showing you.
Видите, линия талии?
Do not forget about the waistline. It should match the notch in the other detail.
Вот она. Вот
Here they are. Make sure that they are placed on the same level.
на одной линии должны быть. Видите,
Have a
вот
look
этот
here.
угол получился? Он
This is how this detail looks like now. There shouldn't be an angle made here. The bottom line should be drawn this way. I know this for sure because this is not the first pattern I'm making. The shoulder seam, the chest dart, the waistline. Here it is. It's very important to sign the fold line.
Это я все выбрасываю.
I can detach the pattern and throw it away.
Начинаю сейчас вырезать.
I can start cutting.
нашу
There will be the chest darts both in the first and the second layers.
части и в нижней части.
I remind you that I've moved the chest dart to the flare in the third layer.
Ниточки я не решилась. Из-за
As I've already
ниточки
said,
вот так очень
I prefer to sew and wear accurate garments. This is why I decided not to get rid of the chest dart. I want the shirt to be beautiful.
Что
I
осталось
remind you
сделать?
that I've made the 10 cm wide opening in the third layer.
Вот я открыла
There will be a
15
fold here.
сантиметров. Это
I'll write it down.
складка. Складка.
The fold.
Наша
The pattern is almost ready.
осталось
The only detail left to be cut is the chest dart. Have a look at what I'm doing next. The fold will be stitched this way, and the dart this way. By doing so, we'll move the flare to the bottom. I'm going to show you how to do it when I start taking the fabric. First, I need to pin the fold. I also need to fold the pattern in half according to the fold line. The pattern is almost ready. The only thing left for me to do is to close this dart. I'll do it later. Let's have a look at the pattern once again. Draw this line first. It should be placed in between the center front and the bust top. Next, draw these two bias lines from this point. Here they are. Here they are in the second detail. Have a look here. I don't like the way this fold looks like now. I want to change it a bit. I want to alter this detail so that it looks differently. I'm going to show you how to do it when I start cutting the fabric. Guys, even though the design is pretty complicated, it's very convenient. It's perfect for those who want to hide some parts of their bodies. Have a look at this picture once again. You can change the design however you want. You can make the neckline wider. There is a button stand on the front. The design is very interesting. Now you know how to make a pattern for this shirt. Draw the needed lines, move the darts, make the folds. I remind you that the chest dart was moved only in the upper layer. I'm glad that I found a way to make these blouse with the chest darts. Otherwise, it wouldn't fit the body that well. I really hope that you find my tutorials useful. Remember that practice makes perfect. I'm going to show you how to cut and tack the front for this shirt. I'm making a mock-up, so I'm going to cut just one half of the front. You need to make a full-size garment. Don't ask me how much fabric you need for sewing such shirt. It's obvious that you need to use a bigger piece of fabric to make this detail. This is a perfect design for those who want to hide their bellies. Before I start cutting, I want to tell you what you should pay attention to. I can move the sketch aside. Let's have a look at the pattern. I remind you that there is going to be a fold here. This is how it should look like. Have a close look here. The original line was accurate. I shouldn't have altered it.
Я ее срезаю. Это для того, чтобы не было вот таких вот углов.
I've cut too much. It's okay. I'll just make the edge straight when cutting. Have a look here. There is a checkpoint on the chest top. This is a regular chest dart.
Вот это наружная
I'll sign the
вот
checkpoint.
контрольная точка,
The
контрольная
checkpoint,
точка,
the bus
вершина
stop.
груди. Контрольная точка. Вот они
These two
должны
points should
совпасть.
match.
Теперь смотрите.
There will be a fold here in the lower
У
part.
нас остается вот такая складка, которая будет складка.
There will be no fold in the upper part.
Складка не нужна. Ну, вот так
I need to make a cut a couple of millimeters above the waistline. I'm cutting the extra detail.
Который в складке. Что
Let's have a look at what we got.
Получается,
There will be a fold in the lower part and a regular dart here.
обычно как выточку.
This detail will look very beautiful.
И здесь она у нас уходит складка.
I've already drawn a line on the fabric.
Я, конечно, все делаю маркером.
I'm using a marker pen for you to see everything clearly.
Писать вы ничего не поймете.
I've drawn the line and marked
На
it.
ней написала линия сгиба.
This is the fold line.
На моей выкройке тоже есть линия.
There is a fold line in the pattern as well.
Моя задача сейчас
I need to make the lines match perfectly.
вот так вот на эту линию. Линия
Notice how careful I am.
линию сгиба.
I'll draw all the other lines with the marker pen as well. The design turned out to be very complicated. Next, I need to pin the pattern on the both sides of the fold line. I think that this is the fifth pattern I'm making for this shirt. It took me quite a long time to find the best way for making it.
Не так уж получается.
I remind you that this is the fold line. This edge should be made smooth and beautiful. If there was no dart here, I would have just made the two flat folds here. I didn't want the armholes to be baggy, so I decided to make the chest darts. I prefer to wear and sew accurate high-quality garments. I can start cutting now. I remind you that I've made a mistake here. The edge should be made smooth and beautiful. Watch the way I'm cutting it. I'm not going to add the seam extensions here because I'm making a mock-up for a dummy. I'll just add some here. I've added the seam extension here in order to be able to stitch the dart accurately. Do not forget to make the notches on the waistline. There should be a notch in the waistline here as well.
Откладываем.
I can move these details aside. Next, I need to cut the first front layer.
Ну, я, конечно,
I recommend everyone making the mock-ups first.
с макетом.
The design is pretty complicated, so you need to know what to do.
Хорошие ткани, потому что вы не справитесь. Фасон, модель.
You can change the design however you want.
Сами. Говорят, что
People say that we are not old as long as our brain work.
давать его
If we make more of such complicated garments, we will never get old.
рубашки, мы никогда не состаримся. Будьте
Please be very attentive.
Я вырезаю
I need to cut the chest dart.
сантиметр, потому что это
I'm going to take it in order for me to work with it more conveniently.
Не мучиться, сейчас зашью и все. Далее.
Next, I need to draw a line in this detail,
Наношу
which should match the
которая
fold line.
должна совпасть с линией сгиба.
I'll also draw the center front.
Это так, для чистоты эксперимента. Все. Убираю наш
I can detach the pattern and move it aside.
заметываю выточку
I need to tack the dart first.
и перехожу к нашей дополнительной детали.
After that, I'll move on to cutting the next
С
detail.
моей базовой основы.
I'm making this blouse on the basis of my
Но
basic
я уже
pattern.
все бумажные выкройки выкидываю.
I can throw the patterns
Если я
aside.
вдруг захочу,
If I decide to make such
то у меня
blouse,
будет вот
I'll
эта
use the mock-up as a
тряпочка,
pattern.
И по ней можно будет делать.
This is the first layer of the front detail. It's very simple.
Полочка. Откладываем её.
I can move it aside.
Она у нас готова.
Let's have a look at this detail.
Здесь тоже
I need to
таким
cut
образом
and tack this
вы,
dart as well.
конечно, нанесете линию.
You can outline it if you don't want to cut it.
Так делать. И сделайте нормально выточку.
Next, I need to trace the lines which mark the width of the fold.
Мы их сейчас
I'll draw the fold on the fabric as well.
Это нам больше не нужно.
I can detach the pattern and move it aside.
Я ее выкидываю сейчас.
All the needed details are drawn and signed.
Известны выточки,
The dart,
известны
the
линии
fold,
сгиба
the
и
waistline.
известная складка.
Work slowly and accurately. Make sure that you understand what you're doing.
Потихоньку от
I
первой
really
линии
hope
так
that at least
пойдёте.
some of you will manage to make such shirts. I'm going to show you how to tack the front. First, I need to tack the front according to the fold line.
Нижнюю часть я,
It's pretty hard to sew such shirts.
конечно, должна быть
I recommend you edging the details with binding.
линия сгиба. Это
This
временное
is a temporary
такое
seam.
сметывание для того, чтобы она у нас хоть как-то нам было
It should be
понятно,
made for me to
что
work more
делать.
conveniently.
Вот это у нас
This is the right side.
Теперь смотрите,
Let's have a look at the fold.
складка. Я ее сейчас
I'll outline it with a marker pen.
Вот это у нас
This is the second layer, so I need to tack the chest dart in it.
зашиваем от себя. Сейчас я покажу, почему.
I've already made about 3 different patterns and mock-ups for this shirt. The technique which I'm showing you is the best one. I remind you that there's also a dot in the second layer. It should be made for the shirt to fit the body better. Do not forget about the checkpoints. They should match. Next, I need to pin the fold and tack the dart.
И заметать выточку.
I think I've made a mistake. This is how it should be pinned and tacked. Please be very attentive. This is how the chest dart looks like now. I don't like this needle. I honestly don't know why I'm working with it. I also don't like the fact that the fabric stretches. It's pretty hard to take it. Watch the way I'm working. I remind you that I'm making a mock-up. Next, I need to lay the second detail on the first one in such way that the fold lines match. Notice that there are the 3 layers of fabric here on the shoulder. The original one, the one with the dart, and the one with the fold. I need to pin the details before I start taking them. Please be very attentive. The technique is very complicated. Next, I need to pin the fold line to the line in the first detail. When I do it, I'll tack the details. I need to pin together the 3 notches, which mark the waistline in the details. I'll explain everything once again, don't worry. I'm going to start taking this detail now. It's placed in between the center front and the bust top. The shirt turned out to be much more complicated than I had expected it to be.
Кондиционеры не справляются.
The shirts made this way will fit the bodies perfectly.
Поэтому я начала работать с выточкой.
The first fold is tacked.
Она у нас. Вот это первая
Here it is in the
складка, она
picture.
разворот. Вот она первая.
This is the point where the fabric changes its right
Повернулась в
side.
другую сторону. У нас вот эта точка.
Next, I need to tack the side seam. I remind you that there are the chest darts in the first and the second layers.
Видите, да, уже что-то
The mock-up
получается.
already starts to look like it is supposed to. You will see everything clearly when I put the mock-up on the dummy. I've tacked the side seam.
Вот тут брали,
I've added a bit more than needed here when cutting, so the detail is too long now. I want to make it a bit shorter.
А я сейчас возьму от нашей отмеченной точки убрала
Cut the extra pieces from the bolt details.
и сюда сейчас уберу излишки.
Let's have a look at what we got here.
Вот наш первый.
Here's the first fold,
Вот наша деталь.
and here's the second one.
Переворачивается сюда, и в этой второй детали еще складка.
There's one more detail left to be
Надо
tacked.
заметать. И
When it's
тогда
done,
уже буду
I'll put the
показывать.
front detail on the dummy.
Вот вы уже все видите. Верхнюю
These seams should be tacked
часть
up from the bust top.
заметываем. От вершины груди шов заметываем. И
I'll
ещё
also tack a short part of the fold down from the bust top.
ну, вот так
I'm not going to make a long seam.
вот. Вот смотрите, вот
Have a look here.
выточки я вырезала.
For the
да?
fold not to look
И
this
чтоб вот
way,
этот вот
but
не
to be
выпадал
beautiful,
всё время, вот
I need to make a couple of concealed stitches on the wrong side.
Эту часть нужно будет вот там внутренне прикрепить.
This is a very useful
Ещё
technique.
поработать немножко. Я
I'll just
поставлю
pin the
сейчас
fold.
сверху просто булавку.
I'm making a mock-up, so I don't want to waste any more time making it.
Стихнет, мне жарко.
Very nice.
Да.
I showed you how to make a pattern very thoroughly.
А
This
уже
is the
так,
most complicated part in sewing the
потому
shirt.
что будет получаться потихоньку,
The most important
это не
thing,
так
that the
страшно.
3 layers should match.
Главное, чтобы все выровнять,
Be very
все 3
attentive.
слоя совпали.
Edge the 3 layers together and then work with the details as if there's just one layer fabric in them. That's it. Next, I need to pin the mock-up to the dummy. I want you to have a close look at it. I'm glad that I managed to find the best way for making such shirts. I need to pin the shoulder and the side seams.
Боковой шов. Вот она у нас вот так вот.
This is how the folds look like now. The armhole is perfect. The chest darts make the blouse fit the body well. This is what I was talking about. To make this fold look the way it is supposed to, you need to make a couple of concealed stitches on the wrong side. I'm going to pin the fold. You shouldn't do it this way. I just wanted to see how the shirt should look like. Let's have a look at this additional detail. It starts at the bottom, makes a turn here, and goes to the side seam. There's one more fold here on the front. That's it. We've finally done it. Have a look at the picture and the mock-up once again. You can make these details as long as you want. It's also up to you how big to make this difference.
До низа, и вот у меня немножко тут до конца талии, где расходятся детали, тоже будете выбирать сами.
That's all for today. Don't be afraid of experiments, and remember that practice makes perfect. Be different and beautiful. My name is Paukshte Irina. Subscribe to my channel, write comments, share the videos, press the like and the bell buttons. I would really appreciate your support. Thank you. Goodbye.